right, 99.9 Punk World Radio FM. You guys already know what time it is. And right here, right now, we are joined by a phenomenal Sydney, Australia-based musician. We got Pete of We Are Not Robots right here, live on the radio station airwaves here in Canada this evening. And of course, or I should say morning for Pete out there in Australia.
Yeah, thanks for having me, mate.
Hey, you are most certainly welcome, man. Thank you so much again for your time, but I won't keep you away from that beautiful Australia sunshine any longer than we have to, so I'm going to dive right into this interview, man. But I got to take you back to the beginning of We Are Not Robots. And I got to ask, what is the story behind this amazing band? And of course, how did yourself and the other bandmates actually first meet?
It's a long story. So We Are Not Robots itself started back in 2015, kind of like as a side project for another band that I was in, and it was originally intended to be a two-piece. I just wanted to do that whole Death from Above 1979 local H thing, and a friend of mine, a guy that I used to play in a few other bands with, him and I started it, and then just realized quickly that we were not local H or Death from Above and needed a bass player. And I bought the bass player over from the previous band that I was in. And then we were officially like a proper band from 2016. And yeah, we've gone through a few people. So the longest lineup was myself, Lee Newton on bass, and Amanda Stassi on drums. And that kind of came to an end during lockdown. It just became way too hard to keep it going, and Amanda started having kids, and Lee moved to Queensland, which is the state north from where we are here in Sydney, New South Wales. And yeah, I tried to get a couple of incarnations of the band happening last year, had a different lineup, and then it wasn't really working, and then I went off and I did something else with another band. Actually did the two-piece thing finally, successfully, but my heart was in robots, so I left that band and started reassembling robots, and I'm happy to say that I brought on an amazing drummer called Anthony Maslin. He played in Sydney bands, punk bands, Clay J. Gladstone, Born Lion, and Whispering Jackie. For all the Aussies listening, I'm sure they know those bands. And recently, a couple of weeks ago, we found a bass player by the name of Edison, but we call him Tommy Sparks due to his, Thomas Edison name. But yeah, so it's a three-piece now, and we're ready to go again.
And when you mentioned Amanda a few moments ago as well, I got to say, that's when I first discovered We Are Not Robots, and she is such a killer drummer, man. I've seen her videos, and you just got to sit back, and you're absolutely in awe with her talent. I definitely wish her the best with her family and everything, but she is an absolute monster on that drum kit.
Oh, she's amazing. She is an absolute weapon of a drummer, and every gig that we play, like, everyone will come up to me afterwards and be like, "Dude, your drummer is so good," But yeah, she, it just, as you get older and you start having kids and priorities change, and she'll always be a part of this band for me, always. So there's no bad blood there or anything like that. We're still friends, and love her to death, and wish her all the best with the family.
And also, July 28th of 2022, you guys actually released the amazing 4-track EP titled Your Body Still Lingers. I was wondering if you can actually just tell us a bit more about this earlier release project, and of course, is it actually still out there to be streamed or purchased today, 2 years later in 2024?
Yeah, it's still on all the streaming platforms. That was probably our first proper band recording that we did, because previous to that, I'd always record everything myself, and just slap the robot's name on it and give it to the band and say, here's the new song. But we got a friend of ours called Ryan Cramp kind of grabbed me by the scruff of the neck. Listen, man, just let me start mixing and recording you guys, and we'll get things sounding sick. And that was like the first proper thing that we did with him, which he mixed, and we let it off with a shovel, which, you know, to my surprise, got picked up on 2 Spotify editorial playlists. And I remember that happening and being like, oh, we've made it. But we hadn't made shit, really. But it was still like, you know, it was still kind of like a shot in the arm to keep going and to keep pushing. And yeah, and then recently from that EP, I started pushing A Miles an Eternity in Your Shoes as a single, again, a couple of years after releasing it. I guess, you know, more into this, you know, these release strategies and all of that as they evolve on how you should do things, you realize the mistakes made in the past. And I was like, well, that's a really good song. I think people need to hear that again. It needs to be pushed to the forefront. And it was a great way to reintroduce the band as well earlier this year.
And also as well, on April 28th of 2023, after not being on stage for 2 years, you actually had the opportunity to take the stage and tear the roof off of the Duke of Enmore. Looking back to just last year, I was wondering if you can actually tell us a bit more about this show, and of course, do you have any up-and-coming gigs coming up? That way our listeners can actually, you know, snag some tickets and come on out to Australia, either travel, or if they are in Australia, snag themselves some last-minute tickets.
Yeah. So that show was, yeah, like it was our first one post-lockdown. And that was with a completely different lineup. At a guy called Nathan on guitar, who plays in Cindy Band's Teddy Rizzo and Bifta. We had Rory on bass, who's also in Bifta, and my old friend Dom on drums, who was in a previous band with me, Capital Colours. And yeah, we played that show with one of my favorite bands of all time, a local Australian punk band called Captives. So we were stoked to be able to play with them, and a band touring from Taiwan called Solemn, who was this crazy female-led metal band from Taiwan. So it was quite a night. Yeah. And as for upcoming shows, we've got one which we haven't announced yet, but I guess this will be the first time we do, on the 20th of September at, I believe it's called Darling Nikki, the venue. It used to be the House of Music and Booze in St. Peter's, but it's just undergone a rebrand, and it's called Darling Nikki.
I gotta say thank you so much for that exclusive, man. I mean, I absolutely love getting exclusives. So you heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. If you're in the Australia area, make sure you slide on through and get yourself some tickets before they're all sold out and see We Are Not Robots live in full effect. I'm down here in Canada, folks, so I wish I could. But you guys can if you're in Australia, so do DJ Immortal a favor and get some tickets and go to the show for me.
Yes, what he said.
But also as well, May 21st, so just 1 month after not being on stage for 2 years, you actually released an amazing single titled The Darkest Night Still Glow. That was actually produced, mastered, and engineered by yourself. I was wondering if you can actually just tell us a bit more about the studio process behind this particular song, and of course, what was it like just being a jack of all trades for this release? Because that's a lot of work to put into one song, but you can definitely hear the heart and soul in this song as well.
Yeah, so I kind of went back to how I used to do things, because it was just me on my own again. So again, you know, during lockdown, I had all this time up my hands, up my sleeve, sorry, and recorded that EP myself. Didn't mix it. I got Ryan Cramp, who I mentioned before, to mix it. But yeah, it was, that song in particular was, I think at the time, my favorite of the 4 songs that I had recorded for that EP, and the video of which was actually recorded at the Duke show a month before. So yeah, but sonically it was, I don't know, I think it was kind of like really pulling on my influences a bit. Like I was a massive Stone Temple Pilots fan, and it was probably the most STP song that I'd ever written.
Yeah, you can definitely hear the resemblance to Stone Temple Pilots in there as well, but you definitely made it your own as well. Definitely, you can definitely hear the influence, but you can definitely tell the difference that this song is a We Are Not Robot song as well.
It's definitely a robot song, yeah.
But also as well, June 21st of 2024, you guys actually released your most recent single titled All This Love For You. I was wondering if you can actually just tell us the story and inspiration behind your most recently released single.
It's an old song. So it was one of the first songs that we had for robots. And we did Queenie. We released Queenie, another old song, about a month ago. And I wanted to keep the releases flowing, so got All This Love For You out as quickly as possible. It's one of those songs that I've just wanted to release for ages, but I wasn't sure how people would take it. It's a little bit quirky. It doesn't really sound like anything else that we do, but it's definitely a robot's vibing song. But it's a song about divorce and how a divorce can tear a family apart and essentially, metaphorically burn a house to the ground. It's personal. It's based on my experience getting divorced, and yeah, to put it bluntly, that's what it's about. It's angry because of it. It's yeah.
And I can definitely tell you this song will go on to help a lot of other individuals that are going through the similar situation that you did as well. That's the one thing I love about music. It's such a universal aspect to it. One person makes a song about issues or anything they dealt with in their life, but it also goes on to help other individuals as well, to help them cope with their current issues they're currently dealing with as well.
Well, I hope people can get something positive out of it. That's the aim. Like if something that that I've put in a song can resonate with someone and help them through a bleak part of their day or life or whatever, that's it's amazing.
And also, before we move on the topic of that song, I also read that this song actually ended up getting a world premiere on 106.7 Phoenix FM. I was wondering, how did you guys actually get connected with that community radio station? And of course, what was it like just being featured on the Trove Show?
It was great. So I think the host of the show, hit us up around the time when Queenie came out. I let him know that there was a new single coming. I think he wanted to feature Queenie, and I was like, well, we've got a new song coming in a week. And he asked me if we wanted to premiere it on his show, and I was like, yeah, absolutely. So it's great since we've come back. Like the support all around has been amazing. Even though we only took like a year off, since coming back with these new songs and new lineup, people have been really receptive, and it's been awesome. So it's made me really stoked that I've decided to do it again.
And I got to say, as a We Are Not Robots fan, I'm super stoked to hear that you guys are back as well. It must feel good for yourself as well to be back after a couple of year absence as well. It seems like as well, I'm just from a fan's perspective, it seems as well that you actually have that perfect lineup. Everyone seems to be on the right page, and you could definitely hear the chemistry that all three of you guys have on these new songs as well. You could definitely hear this is the peak of We Are Not Robots, and I'm super stoked just to hear what comes next from you three.
Thanks, man. There's plenty coming. There's a lot coming.
And speaking of a lot coming, I have to ask, what is next for yourself and We Are Not Robots? Like, is there anything we happen to miss during this evening's, or in your case, this morning's interview? Anything else you still want to touch on, talk about, or promote?
So we will have another single coming out called Count Me Out. That should be out in the next couple of weeks. So I'll be sure to be plastering that all over socials and ramming it down people's throats. And then I am getting the guys in our makeshift studio to lay down their parts for the next EP. So in the previous band that I was in, Them Wolves, we had recorded a bunch of songs, and I wasn't super happy with the direction of that band, and I didn't want to release it and then not get to play those songs. So after I left that band, I took the songs with me, and I've given them to Maz and Tommy Sparks, and letting them put their spin on it, and that'll be the next EP, hopefully before the end of the year.
And before we part ways here this evening, I have to ask, obviously I know how to follow yourself and We Are Not Robots across all social media platforms, but for the individuals here in Canada that might just be discovering you guys here tonight, how do we go about following not only yourself, but of course this amazing band across all social media platforms?
All of our links on a page. It's beacons.ai/We Are Not Robots. Otherwise, just search for We Are Not Robots on Instagram and TikTok and Facebook and Spotify. There's only one of us, so we'll probably come up straight away.
And I gotta say, Pete, thank you so much for giving not only myself but the radio station airways a bit of your time. It was such an honor speaking with Sydney, Australia's finest, and hopefully down the line we can actually make this happen again sometime soon. But for now, definitely have yourself a phenomenal morning, and of course, a great rest of your day out there in Sydney, Australia.
You too, man. Thank you so much.
You're most certainly welcome, man.